Hello, everyone, and welcome to Chapter 1, an overview of nutrition. Here you will see the learning objectives. We may not cover all of these points through this lecture, but these points will help guide you in reviewing the chapter, learning what's important, and it just kind of highlights what you need to know. Terms and definitions. So these here are things that I would like you to know, like you to be a little bit familiar with. Some of these may be on the test or they may be helpful to know and understand while taking the exam and just overall better for your understanding. So understanding nutrition. Here you see we have two definitions. First being nutrition, the science of foods and the nutrients and other substances they contain and their actions within the body. This includes ingestion, digestion, absorption, transport, metabolism, and excretion. Nutrients. Chemical substances obtained from food and used in the body to provide energy, structural materials, and regulating agents to support growth, maintenance, and repair. May also reduce the risks of some diseases. Nutritional status. That is the state of the body as a result of the body's intake and use of nutrients. Nutrition has two key roles, and that is health promotion and disease prevention. Daily food choices determine nutritional status, and those daily food choices can either benefit health or harm health. If your daily food choices end up harming your health, it usually comes out in the form of chronic diseases, which are characterized by slow progression and long duration. Some examples include heart disease, diabetes, kidney disease, things like that. When we speak about diet in this course, we're not referring to a restrictive weight loss plan so much as we're looking at the overall food and beverage choices that we make and consume. Food choices are highly personal. In general, people prefer sugary, salty, and fatty foods. Taste plays a huge role in our decision to eat or not eat something. Another factor is habit. So if we're in a routine, let's say for breakfast, we always have cereal. You're probably picking cereal more out of habit and less out of a conscious decision of, yes, this morning I'd like to have cereal. Same thing for ethnic heritage or tradition, helps influence food choices, social interactions, availability, convenience, and economy. So, home cooked meals versus takeout. Do you have time to cook? If you're at home, do you have the ingredients available for whatever recipe you want to do? Do you have the know-how? Do you know how to prepare the food? All of those things will influence your food choices. Lastly, you see positive and negative associations. So how do we feel about certain foods? So maybe birthday cake and holiday desserts you have a positive association with, whereas maybe you have a negative association with foods, maybe if you were forced to eat them as a child, or foods you eat when you're sick or have a cold, that you might have a negative association with. Other factors. So emotions. Now, emotions may increase or decrease your desire to eat. Um, Emotions that will influence your food choices include boredom, depression, anxiety, and stress. Values, so religious beliefs, environmental concerns, maybe someone follows a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet. Those are all personal choices as well. Body weight and image, medical conditions, so someone who has diabetes is going to be mindful about their carbohydrate intake. If you have cardiovascular disease, you'll be careful with your saturated fat and trans fat intake. Nutrition and health benefits. So you have whole foods, which are minimally processed. Examples would be things like fruits or vegetables, grains, legumes. Then you have minimally processed foods, and that's food that is changed, but not extremely. So maybe it's like frozen vegetables or fruit juice, cheeses, bread, things like that. And then you have ultra processed foods, and those don't resemble whole foods at all. And those examples are things like soda, Pop Tarts, gummy bears. The nutrients. So you have six classes of nutrients. The first three you see are carbohydrate, protein, and lipids or fat, and those are macronutrients. So macro, think big. So your macronutrients are energy yielding, meaning they provide energy, they give you calories. The next two are your vitamins and minerals, and those are known as micronutrients. And those do not provide energy, and you can think micro, small. And the last one you see is water. So you will need to know the six classes of nutrients as well as which ones do or do not provide energy. Body composition of healthy weight men and women. So you see that the body is mostly water. We'll estimate that at about 60%. You can see that that's the bottom half or that blue color. For women, body fat accounts for about 23 to 26%, and for men, body fat about 18 to 21%. And then the remainder, the top part that's like that reddish color, includes carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, and minerals in the body. So you can see body composition is similar to food. So as the saying goes, you are what you eat. The nutrients. So again, just to refresh on the six classes of nutrients, you have carbohydrates, protein, fat, vitamins, minerals, and water. Essential nutrients. Now, these are nutrients that you need to get from your diet, those which the body cannot make or cannot make in sufficient amounts. So again, you'll want to get them from food that you eat. Then you see that carbohydrates, protein, and fat, you see how many calories per gram they provide. So remember, those are your macronutrients. Those are energy yielding. And a calorie is not a constituent of food, but a measure of the energy in food. So basically, a calorie is how energy is measured. So macronutrients, again, carbohydrates, protein, and fat, provide the raw material for building tissue and regulating body activities. Proteins regulate digestion and energy metabolism. The body uses macronutrients. Bonds between the nutrients atoms break, energy is released, and then that energy can either be used if needed or stored later by the body. Energy in the body. So foods generally contain a mixture of all three energy-yielding nutrients as well as other substances. So two examples here that don't necessarily have all three. The first one you see is meat, and that's primarily going to be protein and fat as your macronutrients, but it also contains water, vitamins, and minerals. Usually you're not going to find carbohydrates with your meat products unless they're breaded, let's say. And then you have bread, which again provides mostly carbohydrate, but will have some protein, vitamins, minerals, and water as well. Usually not going to have much fat in bread, if any. Excess of energy yielding nutrients consumed will lead to increased weight, mostly stored as fat. So we eat food and our body digests it. Bonds between molecules are broken, which release energy. This energy is used to fuel processes, but if we consume more energy than we burn, our weight will increase. So energy in the body. How do we calculate the energy or calories available from foods that we eat? So this is found on page 10 in your textbook. I do want you to understand this, and a similar question will be on your exam. So please go over this information slowly. I'm going to talk you through what we're looking at now, and hopefully you understand. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. So This example is for one slice of bread with 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And for our purposes, we're going to assume we hit a food label, everything's measured out exactly, and we know exactly how many grams of carbohydrate, protein, and fat are being provided. So in order to do this math, you have 16 grams of carbohydrate, that's the first line. And knowing that carbohydrates provides 4 calories per gram, you multiply 16 grams of carbohydrate times 4 calories per gram and you get 64 calories. So you're getting 64 calories specifically from carbohydrate. The next line is for protein, and we're saying that this one slice of bread and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter provides 7 grams of protein. To get the total calories from those 7 grams of protein, you're going to multiply that by 4 calories per gram. Again, protein provides 4 calories per gram, which is where we're getting that number. Multiplied 7 by 4, you get 28 calories. And then the last line is 9 grams of fat. So again, we're saying 9 grams total from the slice of bread and 1 tablespoon of peanut butter. And fat provides 9 calories per gram, so it's more calorically dense than the protein and the fat. So 9 grams of fat multiplied the 9 calories per gram equals 81 calories. So you're getting 81 calories specifically from fat. If you wanted to know the total calories, you just add those three numbers. So 64 calories from carbohydrate, 28 calories from protein, and 81 calories from fat. Add those all together and you get 173. To calculate the percent of calories from fat, you're just doing the total number of calories from that specific nutrient over total calories altogether. So 81 calories from fat over the total calories, which is 173. You divide that number, multiply it by 100, and you get 47%. Same thing for the next two lines. Carbohydrate, you have 64 calories coming from carbohydrate. You divide that by total calories, 173, it's 37%. And you can see again, 28 calories from protein over total calories of 173. Divide that, turn it to a percentage, and it's 16%. Again, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. I'm happy to explain further. You should expect to see a similar question to this on the exam. The vitamins. So there are 13 organic vitamins. Each has a special role, and they're typically consumed in small quantities. I don't really need you to know 13, and I don't really need you to know organic, but that is just kind of FYI. Vitamins facilitate energy release. Almost every bodily action requires assistance from vitamins. If you've ever seen supplements or claims that B vitamins, quote unquote, give you energy, they don't specifically give you energy the way macronutrients give you energy because they're giving you calories, but the B vitamins do help the digestive processes that release actual energy from food. Vitamins are vulnerable to destruction. They are easily destroyed and damaged by things like heat from cooking, light, as well as chemicals. The minerals and water. So minerals, again, is one of your micronutrients. So 16 essential minerals. They're consumed in varying amounts. Other minerals are actually environmental contaminants, for example, lead. They are indestructible, so they aren't as easily destroyed as vitamins. Then you have water, and that's the environment for nearly all body processes, and it's the most important of all nutrients. So water is the most important of all nutrients. It is consumed in enormous amounts compared to the other nutrients, and it participates in chemical reactions. Water is generated during energy metabolism, so the digestion or breakdown. So this here, I encourage you to pause this presentation just to see if you can match them accurately to kind of see what information you're retaining or if you need to review something a little bit more. So you're just going to match the left column and it either matches with A or B. So again, I'll hold for a second before revealing the answers. Same thing here. I encourage you to pause the presentation and try to answer as best to your ability. So here's a chart for you. This is just something I'd like you to see, and it's just kind of a review of the 6 classes of nutrients and where they fall. Deficiencies or excesses of nutrition. So malnutrition, any condition caused by an excess or deficiency of food, energy, or nutrient intake, or by an imbalance of nutrients. So too much or too little of something could be energy or a nutrient, or also improper balance of nutrients. You've undernutrition, which is a deficiency of nutrients or energy, so not having enough. And you have overnutrition, which is excess energy or nutrients, and that's when you have too much. So, what are some symptoms of malnutrition? This could be things like weight loss, hair loss, fatigue. Overnutrition can cause heart disease or diabetes. To avoid or decrease risk of malnutrition, nutrition experts created a set of standards known as DRIs, or dietary reference intakes. So, DRIs, or dietary reference intakes, it's a set of values for the nutrient intake of healthy people in US and Canada. The DRI is basically like an umbrella term over the 4 listed below. So you see that they include estimated average requirements, recommended dietary allowances, adequate intakes, and tolerable upper intake levels. Standards are defined for energy, nutrients, and other dietary components. Recommendations apply to healthy people. They may be different for specific groups. Adjustment required for medical problems, malnourishment, or other conditions. So it applies to general healthy people, but not every single person is going to fall into this category. And obviously, you want to look at the full picture of each individual. Estimated average requirements. That's the amount of a nutrient that will maintain a specific biochemical or physiological function in half the people of a given age and gender. Recommended dietary allowances, or RDA, that's the average daily amount of a nutrient considered adequate to meet the known nutrient needs of practically all healthy people. So this is about 98% of the population. The EAR and RDA compared. So again, EAR is the estimated average requirements, which we talked about you can see that first chart. So to the left of the red line, that covers about 50% of the population. So we said EAR, or estimated average requirement, is the amount of a nutrient that will maintain a specific biochemical or physiological function in half the people of a given age and gender. And then on the right, you see a very similar chart, but you see the RDA is that green line all the way to the right. And that covers about 98% of the population. So RDA is the average daily amount of a nutrient considered adequate to meet the known nutrient needs of practically all healthy people. Adequate intakes. So this is set when insufficient evidence is available to determine estimated average requirement. So it's the average amount of a nutrient that a group of healthy people consume. So basically what it's saying is that there's not enough information to establish an EAR. They look at a group of healthy people and determine the average consumption of a specific nutrient and assume that it's adequate or enough. Tolerable upper intake levels. So that is the maximum amount of a nutrient that appears safe for most healthy people and beyond which there is a risk for adverse health effects. So this is the most that you can safely consume. Any more may cause a negative side effect. So here's another little mini quiz. So if you would like to pause the presentation for a moment before I reveal the answers, and you can just try to answer it as best you can. Establishing energy recommendations. Estimated energy requirement, EER. So that is the average energy intake to maintain energy balance. So it's the average dietary energy that will maintain energy balance. This helps maintain body weight. Any excess energy means that you may potentially be gaining weight. No upper level. So this has never been specifically determined. You may want to maintain a healthy body weight and incorporate physical activity to help keep yourself balanced. Acceptable macronutrient distribution ranges, or AMDR. So the DRI committee determined that the composition of a diet that provides adequate energy and nutrients can reduce the risk of chronic disease with these acceptable macronutrient distribution ranges. So we did not cover these yet, but you can try to answer it. Overall goal is to provide adequate energy and nutrients and to reduce the risk of chronic disease. Nutrition assessment. Deficiency or excess over time leads to malnutrition. Could be undernutrition or overnutrition. Symptoms of malnutrition can include diarrhea, skin rashes, fatigue. Others we mentioned earlier, a few things like hair loss, but you also want to be considerate of any potential fat or muscle wasting. Creating a total picture of the individual. So you want to look at historical information, any past medical history they might have, their health status. SES stands for socioeconomic status. What resources are available to them? Are they homeless? What is the situation as far as that? Any drug use? Finding out information on their diet history, so intake over several days, portion sizes. You can use things like a food frequency questionnaire, which just kind of asks, how frequently do you eat these foods? Any sort of food journal where they're writing down what they eat throughout the day, things like that. You have anthropometric measurements, like height and weight, so you can track that to identify any trends, if their weight is going up or their weight is going down. You have physical examinations, so you want to look for things like hair loss or any issues with the skin, the eyes, tongue, fingernails. So those are all things that nurses specifically will be observing in their initial assessment when they get a patient. That's something you might see in healthcare. And then you also have lab tests, which can help identify any deficiencies or overnutrition or things like that. Nutrition assessment of populations. So you have national nutrition surveys, and this is when national surveys use assessment methods to measure people's food consumption and to evaluate the nutrition status of populations. So this may be helpful to establish public policy on nutrition education, food assistance programs, and the regulation of food supply. Healthy People, that's actually a national public health program that identifies the most significant preventable threats to health and focuses efforts to eliminate them. This is the Healthy People 2020 Nutrition and Weight Status Objectives. I won't read these all to you, but if you'd like to pause and read it over yourself, this is their goals. And this is a continuation of the goals for the Healthy People 2020. Diet and health. So this was mentioned before, but I think it's important enough to mention again. The two main goals of nutrition are to promote health and prevent disease. So food's role in health is vital. If you've ever heard the quote, it's something to the effect of that food can be the best medicine or a slow poison. So food can either really, promote health or it can create chronic diseases with poor food choices. So here are the leading causes of death in the United States. 4 out of the top 7 do have a link to diet. So you have heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes, which account for more than half of the deaths each year. Chronic disease and lifestyle choices. Despite evidence linking certain behaviors with chronic disease, many Americans continue to engage in unhealthy behaviors. These include things like excessive alcohol consumption, cigarette smoking, physical inactivity, inadequate sleep, excessive food consumption leading to obesity. The American diet patterns and lifestyle have also started to influence other cultures. Chronic diseases are on the rise in other countries where American foods are now readily available. Basically, despite knowing what we should do, we continue to put our health at risk with these behaviors. So this is the highlight section. There's a few slides that I kept because I felt like they're important, even if just for your own personal knowledge. We won't spend too much time on it, but I did want to go over a few things. So nutrition on the internet. You always want to be careful with nutrition information you read online or on social media. Um, you always want to be questioning the validity of the information. So asking who is providing this information, what are their qualifications? So the who that publishes something can help establish credibility. So are they a scientist? Do they work in the field of nutrition, or is this kind of like a celebrity endorsement, whereas that would be less credible? Um, on the internet, there's no guarantee information is even accurate. Literally anyone can publish anything. So you always want to look at things with a critical eye. You also can evaluate the credibility of websites. So you have the U.S. National Library of Medicine, PubMed. The text cites PubMed as a trustworthy site used by researchers and students. It often will provide abstracts or summaries of research papers published in scientific journals. Many do provide the full article as well. This way you can kind of get a little bit more information on the research and background. So always ask who, when, where, why, and what. So the who, again, is going to be, are they credentialed? Who's saying this? When, you also want to know how recent is this information, because nutrition is constantly changing. There's more research, so you just want to kind of stay up to date with the information that you have. Where did you get the information from? Some .com websites might be a little bit more questionable versus if you have like a .gov or .edu, .org, those sites might be a little bit more credible. You want to ask why. Is this, wherever you found this information, is there someone trying to sell you a product or provide a service? What is the motivation for them? And then what? So you just want to ask, what is the message and does it match what reliable sources are saying? Identifying nutrition experts. So physicians and other healthcare professionals. So sometimes they have limited nutrition training. Now, doctors may have limited schooling or training on nutrition unless they specialize or truly have a passion for it. They probably don't know as much as, say, a registered dietitian would. A registered dietitian has to have a 4-year degree and then at least 1 year supervised practice. They have to pass a national exam, and then there are continuing education credits and activities that you have to participate in to keep your license. So a registered dietitian is probably going to be your primary source of getting nutrition information. And then you also have dietetic technician registered, or DTR, and that's somewhat outdated. they have nutrition training but work under a dietitian or RD. Credentials. So identifying fake credentials, college accreditation, diploma mills, fraudulent businesses. So basically people can obtain fake diplomas or degrees from schools that are not accredited. You want to beware of terms like certified nutritionist or certified nutrition consultant because they don't actually have the same credentials as a registered dietitian. Um, Sounds important, sounds credible, but it's not the same. So a registered dietitian or registered dietitian nutritionist is a regulated term, and there are specific requirements you need to meet that. And then red flags of nutrition quackery, so misinformation. So you want to beware of anything that promotes any sort of quick fix. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And you always want to consider the source. So ask yourself, is this person speaking on nutrition qualified to do so? Is it a celebrity or athlete endorsement? Is the information based on scientific research? And then this is the last slide here, and this again is on red flags of nutrition quackery. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but I'll go over a couple. So one is one product does it all. So one product can't fix all of your problems. So anything that promises you lots of different things probably isn't going to be effective. And then natural products don't always mean better or safer, so you want to be careful with products that you consume or use. And then the last thing I want to point out is personal testimonies. So personal testimonies or hearsay is the weakest form of evidence. So um, products that don't really have science backing them, but promote all of these people have tried it and used it and they love it. You see things like that on social media quite frequently. These are things like your tummy teas or your hair gummies, things like that. So again, personal testimony or hearsay is the weakest form of evidence. So that really wraps up chapter 1, and you can look out for chapter 2.